Reddit asks, what is the scariest thing you've ever seen while driving at night? A fucking owl standing on the carcass of a large buck in the mountains at 3 to 5 a.m. All you see as you approach are two glowing red orbs, then slowly it becomes huge dark form standing on the edge of the road with eyes of fire. Then you get close enough and this massive fucking owl just gives you the death stare as you go past. You realize it was just a large owl standing on the remains of fresh roadkill. Freaked me out for the rest of the dark part of the drive. Someone I knew locally came across a Jeep that had just crashed into the ditch on a highway at night, flipped on its top, wheels still turning kind of thing. He was the first on scene, so called 911 and ran down into the ditch. The driver, who was badly mangled, had been tossed from the car and was dying. This guy held him and the driver died in his arms. The weirdest part of it all was that he found out the next day that it was his cousin, but he hadn't been able to recognize him. I hope the guy who died was comforted by knowing a family member was with him. I think just to be held by anyone. Sometimes it's all we can do for each other. Driving down a 2-lane divided highway. I came up to a couple semis and went into the left lane to pass. I did a shoulder check to get back into the right lane when I saw headlights in front of me. In my lane. The car was going the wrong way. I managed to swerve into the ditch, felt like I was mere centimeters from death. Thought my wife's scream would be the last thing I ever hear. And I never want to hear it again. The semis I passed all pulled to the shoulder to come check on us. Didn't see the car anywhere. I think they just kept going. Had to pull into a gas station after and collect myself. I was following a gray Toyota Tundra in a massive blizzard through Montana on McDonald Pass. He was going pretty quick most of the way but must have been unfamiliar with how steep the final few miles are. He got away from me as I slowed down to about 35. Not 5 minutes later I passed his tire marks in the fresh snow that went off the side of the mountain. Pulled over and looked down to see his truck upside down and on fire about 300 yards down. Called 911. He didn't die but was burned up pretty bad. Sad and scary, and don't go 50 in the snow just because you have a truck or 4-wheel drive. Holy crap. 300-yard fall and he lived. That's amazing. I've heard it said before, but I'll say it again, 4-wheel drive isn't 4-wheel stop. I was on I-70 in Colorado going towards Utah, pulled over at a gas station at 8 p.m. Fueling up, I noticed a couple of attractive women pumping gas. On the other side of the pump was the man in his late 40s, just staring at these young women without notice of anything else going on around him. I walk inside to go grab some food for the next few hours of driving. When I come out I see both the younger women's car and the older man's truck are gone. I decided to hang out at the gas station for the next hour to catch a little sleep before hitting the road again. After driving for a few hours, I was speeding heavy. I pull over at yet another gas station. The young women are there getting gas and eating some food on a picnic table. Looked like they had been there for a while. I didn't see any sign or the man in the truck, but can't say I was looking very hard for it. Well, here's where it got creepy as hell. Can't say I didn't stare at them a bit. I mean, they were good-looking women. As I am watching them leave, I see in the next parking lot over some headlights turn on and it's the same man as before. He leaves when the women leave once again. Okay, that's a bit weird but could just be a coincidence as there weren't many places to pull over. I leave a few minutes later and catch up to them. Now this guy is riding their ass with his high beams on. I decided to slow down and stay a distance behind the truck. 10 minutes or so later the women pull over once again to most likely get this guy off their ass. With a sigh of relief the truck keeps going and I continue on my way. About 1 mile down the road the guy just pulls off to the side of the highway. So I pull off a mile or so down the road again. Sure enough, the women drive by and the guy is still following them. At this point we are out in the middle of nowhere and too many coincidences have happened. I called the cops to alert them. In about 15 minutes the cops pulled the guy over. I could have just seen too many horror movies that started like this and overreacted, but you never know. Better safe than sorry. Not me but a friend. After dropping me off at my house around 2 a.m., my friend calls me and tells me to lock my doors. He said he saw a man standing in the middle of the road and that as he passed him the man kept staring through him. Not at him really, but like there was something behind him in his back seat. He also said he could barely make out anything about the man other than his large eyes and trench coat. What really terrified me is that this happened on a street that only my family lives on and no one would have been out that night. Also, we're a solid 1.5 miles from the nearest neighbor. Freaked me the hell out. I live in a really safe country and a really safe city. I'm a photographer and I sometimes come home between 2 to 4 a.m. Back then my parents lived in an attached group of houses built into a hill, and below the houses were our parking spots. This was a really quiet area with nobody around after midnight. Parked the car, wanted to get my gear and walk up to my door when I see someone walking between my neighbor's cars. I asked him WTF he was doing, and he came towards me, with just shorts and a short shirt. It was about -5 degrees Celsius out, and asked me what was up. At first I freaked out because he was walking up to me aggressively, but then I saw his pupils, which were as wide as dinner plates, plus he was skinny as hell. Told him to piss off and go home. He said okay, but I stayed to watch him. He went across the road to a group of houses and started snooping around there. Called the cops. They took him with him because he refused to ID himself. I slammed the brakes once because I saw a deer in my peripheral vision. Upon closer inspection, it was a mounted deer head on a stick in the middle of the woods. Slammed the gas after I realized that. That's all for this video. You made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing so you know when the next videos are released. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.